Hi there, welcome to the More Sibyl podcast. This is a podcast for Blacks, Asians, and those who love them. I am Mo, and I am your host, ready to spark your curiosity as I take you on this adventurous ride of exploring cultures through the stories of my guests from all over the world. On this show, we get really personal, discussing salient issues that are relevant to our contemporary age and also building community around them. As our guests exercise courage and vulnerability in sharing their life's experiences, we hope that in turn you are inspired by them and that you get the courage needed to set your own stories free. Enjoy the ride, and thank you so much for listening. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. This is the More Sibyl podcast, and I am the host, Mo. So today I am super stoked to talk about this person and also hear her story. Her mission and her purpose is one that really gladdens my heart. And when I met her, it was at a support group for podcasters. And when she was talking, she actually has this sweet, quiet, but gentle strength about her. And you could tell that even under all of that, there was this passion brimming about, what she was talking about. And the more she talked, the more I realized that, I'd like to be a guest on her podcast because, what she does is really phenomenal. So she's really big on education. And if you know me, that's one of my biggest passions as well. So I was like, let's just do this. But she beat me to it. She emailed me and the rest, as it says, history. So today I'll be talking about Shanimarie Ogilvie. She is super passionate about education. She helps elementary teachers with 0 to 10 years of experience to manage their classrooms and effectively instruct young learners so that both the students and the teachers will feel fulfilled. She's also known for a lot of skills. She has good listening skills, she's results-oriented, and she uses a laser-focused approach to instruction and classroom management. She earned her Master's of Education and a Supervisor Certification from Montclair State University and has spoken at the Rutgers School's Culture and Improvement Project on implementing school culture goals. She currently works as an ELA Content Reviewer. She enjoys learning about educational research best practices for teaching and innovative curricula. As you can tell, this is someone that really, really loves education. Like she just didn't stop at a degree. She's like, finding best practices and all that kind of fancy stuff. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to Shanimarie as I bring her to the podcast. Hi, Shanimarie.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be there. Thank you, Mo, for that warm introduction and warm welcome. I'm so happy to be here. As Mo said, education is my passion. It's something that I love. And I'm so happy here to talk to Mo because she also loves education. And I also had her as a guest on my show. And I just love talking to her because she brings so much to the conversation. But I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. You're so kind. So let's just unpack a couple of things and let's start from the very beginning. Tell me a little bit about you, how you grew up, and what you identify as racially and ethnically speaking.
Yeah, so I grew up in Jamaica. My family migrated here when I was 12 years old, and so being that I migrated, I definitely identify with my Jamaican heritage. I'm Jamaican, but as you grow and as you learn, and you meet new people, you start to think about things differently. So now I identify as Afro-Caribbean, and
Wow, I think I know what that metamorphosis you're describing. I think I have a feeling of that. So let me explain what I think you said, and I'll use myself as an example. So growing up in Nigeria. I was Nigerian, I never thought I was, black. And when I say black, I'm not saying I didn't think my skin wasn't popping enough. I'd always, loved everything about myself, being Nigerian, melanin popping and all that. But it was when I moved to the US, I realized that I was black. Almost like the moment I got down from the airport and entered my port of entry, I was handed this Crayola box, all of the colors of the world, pick your corner, sister. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And it took a while to kind of shed that. I'm still proud in Nigeria, nothing's ever going to change that. But I also identify as black. and I'm taking out that social construct and owning it. But it took me a while to get there. So I see how you described yourself originally as Jamaican, and I still know you're Jamaican. But now I think when you're in the US, you also say you're Afro-Caribbean. So would you say that Afro part of you became more nuanced when you moved to the US? Because I know Jamaicans can be proud as well, like Nigerians. You guys have your nationality pride, and that's really good, mostly.
Yeah. Jamaicans are super proud. Sometimes we're a little bit extra. We're a little bit extra with it, but
have you met Nigerians?
Yeah, we can be extra, but yeah. So it's definitely nuance. Like when I first came here, I didn't want to claim my African side of me. I was like, what? I'm African, because we all have that negative stereotype, what we see on TV. And yeah. And as I got to meet more people, a good friend of mine, he lived in Benin most of his life, and he came here when he was an adult. And, we used to hang out, talk, and eat, go out, do stuff. And I realized, like, wow, we eat the same food. We cook the same types of food. Like, the food that my family cooks is what he cooks in his house. And he's from all the way in Africa. And I started making a connection. Like, wait a minute, the same thing that we used to do in Jamaica, in terms of like the culture and some of the practices, that's what he was doing. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe there is some African. Maybe there is some African in me that I didn't accept, or for whatever reason, but just by meeting him and different people, I've come to accept that part of me and, embrace it, because it is a part of me. It's a big part of me because, through the transatlantic slave trade, when, Africans were brought to the Caribbean and to America, and it just made me, I made the connection, whereas before I didn't see it at all, growing up in Jamaica. And yes, we did, not that Jamaica is like anti-African or anything like that, but, growing up, like, you talk about social constructs and how, Africa is viewed, it's a negative stereotype.
I understand what you mean. I understand. Even as an African, there's some other African countries I already hold stereotypes, about, even without even meeting anyone from there or even going there, because of the media. So you don't have to almost like trying to say like, oh, I know this is wrong. We didn't know it was wrong as at that time when we were ingesting this thing. Now that we're older, we're trying to see the world, in a different place. And thank God for like globalization, where we can get to interact with people from other parts of the world and realize that, my gosh, people are people, countries are countries, and there's so many stereotypes we have, and it's just to accept it, not like open it out and then see how you can learn and throw some of those old ways away. So I do understand what you mean. Yeah. And very interesting. I guess in that regard, our paths are similar. And I want to just, go off a little bit with tangent. When you're talking about food and with your Benin friend and realizing that, wow, he's from that other part of the world and I'm from here, but then we have so many similarities. I had almost like epiphany moments with my Korean roommates in 2014 when we spent the summer together in Boston, and the way they ate rice, and also the way they talked about food and the national pride of that country made me realize that, my gosh, we had so many similarities with Koreans, especially, that familial piety, being very respectful towards elders. And, and I think that kind of also started making me inch a little bit as adopting Korean as a second culture, because I realized that there was so much I could learn, but there was also so many similarities that we had. So I'm glad you had that conversation with your friend. I really opened up your eyes.
Yeah.
So, good. Another question I'd like to ask you was this. Before I moved to the US, you learn about your country's history, but of course, it's always usually on the positive side. And then moving from a country who's kind of developing to a country that is quite developed, and you hear about your country in a different way, almost like it's written from the standpoint of someone that was richer and, had more power. And sometimes your country was being seen as this backwater place and a place that, was just full of monkeys running around and all that kind of stuff. And of course, it fills with so much anger. But it was also the stereotypes you heard about your country. Almost like everybody thinks Nigeria is just one street along Africa and everybody there is on their computer trying to scam the nearest idiot. Sorry, the nearest, trying to scam the nearest white person. And, you know, as time went on, it's like, this is so old. Like, is that all you know about Nigerians? And using that as an example to, you know, really ask you is Jamaica. I have been to Jamaica before. I went to Montego Bay, but I went to the airport. And when I got down, I used to have braids on then, and everyone thought I was Jamaican. I would speak, you know, Creole, even patois to me, and I couldn't respond. And they're like, "Oh, you look Jamaican." I'm like, "No, I don't." Like, "Thank you, but I'm not Jamaican." And I don't know what I'm trying to say. I almost even got like my bus ride free from the airport to the hotel. Now, admittedly, I stayed at the Hilton Rosedale, which is, you know, very high-end hotel, and I didn't really go out, so I didn't explore like the local scenery. But one thing I really loved was the hospitality from the airport, even within the hotel. You guys went above and beyond, and I love the fish. You know, I loved ackee. I ate, you know, salt fish, and I had breadfruit. You know, there was mangoes, bananas in abundance. But the idea I have about Jamaicans is just you guys are just laid back, and you just want to smoke weed all day, chill, everything gonna be all right. I do know for a fact that smoking weed publicly in Jamaica can put you in jail. Everybody thinks like, you know, Jamaica is just like flowing with, you know, weed and honey, but you can get, you know, locked up for smoking. But I just want to ask you this. What is that perception we have about Jamaicans that might be wrong? But, you know, even though it seems harmless, you want to smoke weed and chill all day, compared to people can think your country people are like scammers and, you know, internet fraudsters. What's that perception people have about Jamaica that you would like to set straight, speaking as a Jamaican? And that was a very long question.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would say the perception of, yes, you know, yes, we are laid back, but I think we also are very determined. We're very hardworking, and you know, we're also into, like, you know, the arts, the culture, sports, and entertainment. Like, that's a big part of the culture. You know. Yes, sports is even a bigger part because everybody always talks about, you know, track and field with Usain Bolt and all that. But I think the arts also plays an important role in the culture in terms of like the music and plays. And because I remember growing up, you know, that was a big part of school. Like, we always have plays. We have, I forget what it's called now, forgive me, but, you know, we have this big event like every year where all the schools in Jamaica, they go and they perform, you know, different like plays and skits and acts. And it's just, so I think the, you know, the ganja smoking, weed smoking, yeah, that is a part of it, but that's a small part of it. And funnily enough, like the smoking weed part of it, it's actually like for some, it's considered like medicinal. And so, you know, you have people that abuse it, obviously, but a lot of people that use it, it's more medicinal. Like, they don't abuse it. Yeah. So I think, yeah, that's another part of it. Yeah. So, you know, we're very hardworking, determined, and, you know, very prideful, and we love our culture. And yeah.
Yeah, no problem, man. And I love some interesting facts about your country. So I love some fruits like bananas, mangoes, and sugarcane. And your country has, you know, largely cultivated that, even though those fruits were not indigenous. And your country was the first country in the world to send a bobsled team. You know, there's no snow in Jamaica, but you guys filmed like a bobsled team and you went to the Olympics. I thought that was amazing. I learned that fact from that movie, Cool Runnings. And also, I think the resilience of you guys as a whole. And for those that love travel, Jamaica has very few snakes on there. Way back in time, to send like a mongoose. They got like mongoose to like eradicate the snakes. So you don't have a lot of snakes in Jamaica. And if you do encounter a snake, chances are they are non-venomous. So for those that are, you know, deathly afraid of snakes, Jamaica might just be yours. And I mean, one of their biggest exports is travel. As a matter of fact, in 1994, Jamaica was the first country in the world to launch a website dedicated to travel. I think it was JamaicaTravels.com. So yes, visit Jamaica. It's just so good. So let's talk about this, you know, the more serious things now. You went into education, and I've always encountered two kinds of people that are currently in education. Those that it felt like it was just something they had to do, but you also find those that are really passionate about it. Because for the most part, I think it's a thankless job. because you do so much and the remuneration is not equitable to the kind of work you put in as teachers. So pray tell, what inspired you to go into education?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a long story, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. So yeah, when I was a little girl, I loved reading. Like, it was like all I did. It's funny, like my dad took a picture of me and I had like all these books like in front of me and I was just like so like in my books. And so like as I got older, you know, I started babysitting. Like that was like one of my first jobs, like, you know, taking care of kids. And funnily enough, I went to business school. And then after business school, I was like, you know what, I just, it's not something that I wanted to do. And I thought, well, I always earned money babysitting. I love working with kids and I love reading and I love learning. And so I was like, I'm going to go into teaching. So it was kind of like accidental, but I'm a learner myself. And I love working with kids. And I said, well, okay, I don't want to do business. So I'm going to put my love of learning and working with kids. And I put the two together and I came up with teaching. And so, yeah, that's how I came into teaching. My mom is a teacher. And so I didn't go into it because of her, but once I got into it, I was like, okay, I really feel good about this. Like, I just, you know, when you start, I just had a good feeling. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And so, yeah, I ended up staying in teaching and I absolutely love it. And, yeah.
Wow. Okay, wow. I mean, very interesting because what's similar in that regard, I love to learn. I was always reading as a kid, but I didn't think I was going to go into education as a whole. I went into pharmacy and now I teach, you know, graduate students and professional pharmacy students in a university. But I think where we differ is that I'm not very keen on teaching kids. You know, I think there's a level of grace you need to have to teach little kids. And I don't have it. I do have a huge respect, you know. Teachers have taught me when I was a kid and they've shaped my mind. I used to be the kid that would ask a lot of questions in class. They indulge me, they listen to me. So I wouldn't be here without them. So kudos to them. But I know for myself, personally speaking, I don't have that grace. So thank you for all you do.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's kind of nice to hear about, you know, just that. And I understand that even though your mom is a teacher, you didn't go into that. But I imagine now that you guys have a lot to talk about and you can even glean on her wisdom and, you know, maybe find ways of doing some things as well. So that's good. But I'm curious to know, as someone that is in education, what do you think are some personal character traits that a person must possess to be a very good or even exceptional teacher?
Wow. Yeah, I would say the main thing is that you need to be a learner because things are constantly changing. And it's great to have a passion, but sometimes your passion is not going to be enough because you have to adapt and it's so many things that you have to juggle in the classroom. So you have to be flexible. You have to be a learner. And I would also say patience because it's almost like I was reading a quote the other day. It's almost like it's your own kids and you have to have the patience and the spirit to when you feel like you want to pull your hair out, you just have to just take a deep breath and say, this is how I'm going to handle the situation and just stay calm because kids will drive you to that level. And I'm sure parents know this, but in the classroom as a teacher, you know, but you have to look past, you know, you have to find your strength and find your calm and just be like, okay.
Find your will, find your whys. Maybe you have it just contact someone in your classroom. Oh my goodness. Okay, I need to ask this. I teach older students and it's not always easy. For one, you're supposed to spank kids, but even when you're tempted to, you know you cannot do that. So do you think it's easier teaching kids? I still think there's a component to ease as far as it's easier teaching kids or versus teaching like adults like in a classroom. What are your perceptions? And I would down this hill, by the way.
Yes. So I think there is a difference, but I think in the end it kind of boils down to the same thing because the end goal is you want whether if it's an adult or a child, you want them to learn something, to take away things and to apply it to somewhere else in their life, right? And so, but I think with kids is what's different is that with kids, you're really shaping them, and so they don't have any. I don't want to say any, but they don't have a lot of experiences that they're already bringing to the table.
They're impressionable.
Yeah.
More impressionable, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like you're teaching them those skills. You're teaching them those social skills that they need. You know, you're really kind of you're setting their mindset already. But with adults, it's like that stuff is already there. So you have to use those experiences to teach them. Whereas with kids, it's like you're helping them to learn from those experiences and teaching them social skills. So,
I mean, I guess you're right in that regard. Yes, I think it's about just choosing what your strengths are and how you can basically cope. Because your tensile strength as a teacher also matters, because you don't want to be explosive. You don't want to corrupt the integrity of your classroom. So if you think you're not going to be good with kids, then don't teach kids. Maybe choose another demographic. I have taught 7th and 8th graders. I used to teach, I used to be like a tutor, like a math tutor for inner city kids in Austin. And I love teaching 7th and 8th graders because they were all into music and I love music. So we'll talk about that while teaching them, concepts in mathematics. But I knew if I had gone like 2 grades lower than that, it would have just been chaotic because, kids crying and being, it's just like, just.
That part of it is hard to deal with. But, I think once you have a system and once you have the structure in place, kids will fall into line. And I taught, and just one more thing. I taught 5th grade for a little bit, and it was funny. Like the same kind of behavior I was seeing in kindergarten, I was seeing it with 5th graders, and I was like, wait a minute. So it's just putting that structure in place, and once you have that structure in place, it gets easier. Yeah, it does.
Well, I have just a couple more questions for a round of. And so you teach right now. You're very passionate about innovation, and I love just that tip you gave of being a learner, because a lot of things keep changing, like you said, and you need to be able to move with the times to be able to shape the minds of your students or whatever population you're serving. What's your future like? What do you think your future is going to be like in this field? You think you're going to still be here, or are you thinking of like joining something to it, or this is just what you want to do and you think you might do it for the rest of your life?
Yeah, so right now, I work as an ELA Content Reviewer, so I'm not in the classroom, and I'm not in the classroom right now. So I review curriculum, but I am going to stay in education for a long time. Right now, I'm working on creating courses for teachers, and so that's the more business entrepreneurial side of it that I'm exploring, because I feel like I want to make more of an impact. I want to make more of an impact, because I feel like when you work in the classroom as a teacher, you reach a lot of students year after year. But when you start working with teachers, once you start working with multiple teachers, you're impacting more and more kids. And I've done that with some coaching I did with teachers. So you can have more of an impact if you're working with teachers, because the more teachers you work with, the more classrooms you can impact. Yeah. And so, right now I'm developing courses for teachers, and hoping to build that side of my education passion.
Wow. So almost like you're doing the trainer kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, aside from your work in education, it seems like you've probably ventured into entrepreneurship. Am I correct?
Yes.
What was that about, and how did that turn out?
Yeah, so I'm actually in the process of it right now. I started the business last year, October. Yeah, at the beginning of October. And it's been interesting. It's definitely a lot of work and a lot of moving parts. And sometimes you see other people with their business and they're like, oh yeah, they're making a lot of money. But once you go behind the scenes and see what they had to do, it's like, whoa. So, so starting an online business is definitely difficult, but I'm going to push through it because it's something I wanted to do. Like in the long term, like I want more location freedom and what's the other thing? Yeah, so location freedom.
Income stream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Are you at liberty to tell us what your business is about?
Yeah, so my business, so we focus on 3 things. I help teachers to master their craft, which is, becoming a better teacher, being a more effective teacher, using their voice. So, as a new teacher or even a veteran teacher, sometimes we hold back as teachers. We don't want to give our opinions or say what we really feel, but that's important because that's how we're going to improve. And then the last thing is to enhance student learning. So when you're able to master your craft and use your voice, those are the things that are going to help to make students learn. Or enhance student learning. And with those things, I'll be offering courses for teachers in classroom management, instruction, and so that's what it's about. That's what the business is about. It's an evolving process, but I've started, so that's the good part.
Oh, I think I see what you did here. What your passion in education and training a trainer, you made that into an entrepreneurial path for you. So this is where your passion and your hobby come together as one, because they're the same thing, and then you're able to do what you enjoy, and so it doesn't seem like you're working a day in your life, and then you're earning money through Shanimarie, you Jamaican, Afro-Caribbean entrepreneur. That's amazing. I like how you're able to do that. It's stress-free. But I imagine that when you're stressed, you need to think of something else to do to kind of take your mind off, because your hobby and your income stream are the same thing. So take, for example, I work, as an educator, and then I have a podcast. And I call them my wife and my mistress. When my wife gets stressing to me, I move to my mistress. And so I'm able to have that, diversity of, interest. But for you, how do you slow down? How do you without getting burnt out, because it's all training and equipping people and working with people all day long?
Yeah, I hear you. That's a little bit of a struggle, especially during quarantine. But previously, I love salsa dancing. So that's what I do to just when I'm stressed out, I just put on some salsa or some bachata music and I just keep going like that. I love that. When I'm doing that, I don't think about anything else. And what else? Yeah, I have a lot of hobbies. I like to work out. That helps me to relieve a lot of stress. Yeah. I like hiking. That's helpful. That helps with the stress also. So those 3 things mainly. When I want to just get away from it all.
So you have to be super intentional about self-care.
Yeah.
All right. 2 things about my country is there's this thing that always say that the reward of a teacher is in heaven. Or the reward of teachers is in heaven. And this is because, I think in the US it's similar. I think in most places we all agree, especially except you're in Finland, or Korea, we all agree that teachers are not paid very well. And in my country especially, the government has this latitude towards improving the standard of education. Do you believe that the rewards of teachers should be in heaven, or do you guys want to get your reward right now and pay me the money?
Oh, good question. Pay me the money.
Because it's just got it, man.
No, I really believe because I think, pay people what value they bring to the table, because they can use the money how they feel is appropriate to better their lives. And so, yes, there is a long-term reward of, your kids are always, they're going to come back to you and say, they learned so much from you. You turn them into a great adult. That's great. That's wonderful. But you also have to think about your life now as a teacher. You want to make your life the best life that you can have as a teacher. And that includes paying me what I'm worth. So I say pay me now.
I know what you mean. Even in Oklahoma here, a lot of teachers have moved to Texas because Texas pays, a lot better. And I wish they could do a lot better and pay teachers what they because there's so much you guys do. Especially with the pandemic and having to, and I know you're not in the classroom, but with the pandemic having to like do, for those that are doing hybrids, for those that have to like, revamp their whole, heck, I was also stressed last year because we had to do everything on Zoom. Do you know how much passion it takes to be emotive on Zoom and be more inventive and try to like make your students not be depressed just by the lectures? It's a lot of work, but I hope that as time goes on, we do appreciate teachers. I think most of us have that sentiment, appreciating teachers. But I think it's time we put our money where our mouth is, or our mouth where our money is. That kind of, I don't know which one is correct. I can't remember right now. But second thing I want to ask you is this. This is a very general statement. Some people don't. Some. It's not very applicable all across Africa. But let me just use Nigeria as an example. It's not unusual in some cases or in schools where teachers and parents inflict corporal punishments, like on students, like lashes or punishments and all that, on students that are not academically sound. And it's believed that beating or inflicting those corporal punishments on the students will promote seriousness that would equate to improvement in the academic work. What do you have to say about this? And or if you, I want to imagine against that, what would you recommend for teachers and parents when dealing with students that are not academically strong?
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that I notice in terms of students who are not academically strong is to look at like the developmental side of it. So it's like parents and teachers, we have our expectations of where students should be at a certain point, but does that match up with that student developmentally? So like, for example, if I have, I'm just using, a random example. If I have a kindergarten student, they're coming into kindergarten, right? And the expectation is that they're reading at the beginning. The expectation is that they're reading at the beginning of kindergarten. But is that really developmentally appropriate for that age? So it's like, you can't force a child to start reading when they enter kindergarten because they might not be developmentally ready. So it's like, you have to balance it out. And in terms of older kids, I think it's you have to develop like that intrinsic motivation, right? And so when I say intrinsic, like the child, you have to develop like that love of learning.
That would be the best for the child. Yeah. So, and I also think what we take for granted is practice. A lot of students, like, they'll just give up because they didn't get it right the first time, or they didn't get it right the second time. And so, but you have to practice. Like, you can't just expect it to just come automatically. And Carol Dweck talks a little bit about it in the growth mindset. Like, a lot of parents and teachers say, "Oh, you're so smart, but that's not what we should be telling kids, because kids tend to think, "Oh, I'm smart, I should be able to figure it out in the first try." Yeah. No, it's gonna take time because it's something new that you're learning. You've never seen it before, and so you have to practice. You have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to keep going. So I think our expectations of where kids should be, and giving them that time to practice and to make mistakes and to just keep going, even when they think things are like, hard. Yeah.
They have to keep going. And I think sometimes it's like as the adults, sometimes as the teachers and parents, like we give up more easily than we think, because I noticed that like with younger kids, sometimes like they get to a point where they give up on themselves, like, but you have to kind of like nudge them to make them keep going, if that makes sense. And a lot of parents and teachers, they'll see that the kid is giving up, but they give up themselves too. And so what happens is like both
teachers and students and teachers have given up. Yeah. It's
a very subtle thing, but I see that a lot, and I think that's what happens because I've seen it with a lot of kids. I've seen it with my nephew. He's in a very good school district, and very, very intelligent little boy. And, I was like, wait a minute. He knows his letters. He knows his sounds. I don't want to take all the time, but he knows his letters. He knows his sounds, but he wasn't like really reading. And this was first grade. And by first grade, you should be reading, at your level. And once I started working with him, I was like, oh, he never got over the hump of like, I can do this, because he just said, well, like he gave up. He didn't say that because, he couldn't articulate it that at the time.
Yeah, that time.
Yeah. I had to like push him forward, like, no, you can do this, and so I think that's one of the big things when it comes to students that have difficulties.
And I think what I'm hearing from you is, rather than praise them for being smart, is develop their ability to stick to itism, like develop their curiosity at problem solving, and don't let them be so outcome oriented. Like, you're smart, so you should always get it, but always praise them when they're able to like stick to something that you can, even though they're struggling, but the ability to commit to solving that problem. I think it will serve them more, especially at a very younger age.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 2 questions, and I promise. This is just a curveball question. I say that you've had this very fulfilling life, and moving from Jamaica here, I don't doubt that you probably had some adversities along the way, even though you look all calm and gentle and quiet and all that. So, not for the shock at all, but I just want to know about your process as being human. And if you listen to a couple of my episodes, you also get to know some of my struggles. Like struggle with body image, I have depression as well, and just struggling with that sense of, there's always that lingering sense of, I'm never going to be enough. There's always around me that I'm always trying to like get rid of. So I'm curious to know, what has your process been like as far as the humanity part of it? Like, what are some of the struggles you currently have? Or in another way of putting it to be, what adversity have you struggled with? And if you've overcome it, you can let us know as well.
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, I also struggle with depression too. Ever since, like I was younger, it's funny because my dad always said, like when I was a baby, like, because I have a twin brother, and he would say that I was the one like always crying. Like
You are a twin?
Yeah, I'm a twin.
What is that podcast? I'm married to a twin, and I love twins. Like, we should have just started with that. But sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Fun fact about you. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so like, my dad would say like when I was younger, I was always the one that was crying. But yeah, long story short, I struggled with depression for a long time. It started actually when I first came to this country, like the second or third year I was here, and it's really hard. And when I went to college, thankfully they had like a program where you could go see a therapist on campus, and so I did that for 4 years, and that helped me to get through college by the grace. That was my saving grace, because I think if I didn't do that, I think I've had a really hard time in college. So yeah, that's one of the things I did, and it never really completely went away. Like I still struggle with it after college, like when I first started working, my early adulthood. And so I kept going to therapy, but I never took medication or anything, because I'm against it personally, but I struggled. And but I think what made it different for me was that, and I read a lot of self-help and spiritual books, and I read the book by Eckhart Tolle called it wasn't The Power of Now. No, it was A New Earth. And in the book, it was saying that, you can't search for happiness, because if you search for happiness, you're never going to be happy. And I was like, it was like a light bulb for me. I'm like, because all this time, it's like, because when you're depressed, it's like, for me, it's like, I just want the happy feeling. I don't want to feel depressed. I don't want to, I just want to be happy. And I kept thinking, what can I do to be happy? What can I do to make me happy? And once I just once I read that, read the book and read that sentence, I was like, wait a minute, I need to just stop looking for happiness, because it's elusive. I'm never going to find it. And so like once I kind of took that mindset, it drastically helped me. And then also I think I kept doing more therapy, and the therapist that I had, not now, but I had her she was really good. I had her for about 3-4 years, and she helped me because I've dealt with like a lot of trauma. That's probably why I'm so calm. Because
Wow.
I've dealt with a lot of trauma. And she helped me just process it all. And she just, she helped me understand like what I've been through, or what I go through, like it matters. And so I shouldn't dismiss it. I shouldn't dismiss my feelings. And like once I really started like dealing with my feelings and not trying to push them down and push them away, and that really helped me. And then finding hobbies definitely helps. So I would say finding hobbies, doing your hobbies, going to therapy, and just realizing that, happiness is elusive. You can't find it. You just have to. You can have joy at certain points, or you can have happiness at certain times, but it's not lasting. It's fleeting. And so now it's not as bad as it used to be. Like now I know how to manage it, with better coping skills, like, working out and hobbies and trying to get my mindset straight. So yeah.
Wow. First, I'm sorry to hear about what you've gone through. And it's amazing how you see people shining, and we forget that there's always so much that goes on behind the scene. And I think it also alludes to what you talked about, teachers, and there's so much you guys have to like put together. And on a bigger scale is, just life as a whole. I'm sorry to hear about the trauma you've been through, but I'm also glad that you're finding ways to, circumvent that and rise above it. I think life comes with a lot of trauma. Living life comes with a lot of trauma. And the other layer of that are some of the bad experiences you go through. But I'm glad that you found therapy. You found something that works for you. And like you, therapy has also been my saving grace. I've been in therapy for, kind of won't count now, maybe 10 years now. And yeah, off and on, but every year I just have to, I think just talking to somebody, I could have just said I've been with a friend, because I feel my therapist as a friend I can confide in. And because I've traveled a lot and I've moved places, in between, I've had to like change my therapist and start unpacking and starting all over again. And there could be some trauma in having to like describe it.
Yeah.
Someone needs to do a study on that, like switching therapists and just having to like introduce yourself. Can't you just go on an app and just download all your bio data? But anyways, all of that is there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, like you guys say, oh my gosh, I have to explain, why my son and my father don't get along, or used to get along, and why I don't like this person, and things like that. I don't want to talk about it. I'm not trying not to talk to you. I'm not trying to be stingy with information. But you're like the 10th person I'm telling this all of my lifetime. Can't you get how difficult this is for me? So, I'm sorry for all you've gone through, but I'm also encouraged that you found what works for you. And I think that's the beauty about it. And I'm glad that you are talking about it, because in Nigeria, we still see mental health issues. It's trending a lot now, but we still see it as soft issues, like, you can't be depressed if you pray and read the Bible. Just snap out of it. How can you be depressed? You have, you're doing a little bit better. You have a good job. You have this and that. Why should you be depressed? And having to explain to people that you can have all of these things and still be depressed. It doesn't, like, depression is not, it's an equal opportunity offender. Like, going around. It doesn't care. It's even worse if you're like, all put together. And I can imagine that even in Jamaica, it's applicable as well. So, you know what? I wish you all the very best in your journey. And I pray that you continue to find ways to give back to yourself through self-care, through therapy. And you really see yourself just how, I don't know you very well, but I think you're amazing. And I think you're quite passionate about things you do. And I hope you always keep seeing yourself in that light. So, all the very best to you, Shanimarie.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you,
You're
Mo.
welcome.
This is wonderful.
You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and where we can find you.
So my podcast is called The Teacher's Impact. You can find it on all your podcast players. So, like I said like I said earlier, on the podcast, I help teachers to master their craft. So giving you strategies and tips on how you can become an effective teacher. And I also interview other teachers to get their perspective on how to improve the education system. And so you'll definitely come away listening to the podcast. You're going to learn a lot, and it's going to help you to improve your craft. So, yeah.
Awesome. And where can we find you? Your website or?
Oh yeah. So my website is teachersimpact.net. So you can go there. You can find me on Instagram at Shanimarie O, and Twitter at Shanimarie O. Same thing. So but yeah, best place is teachersimpact.net.
All right. Well, Shanimarie, this has been fun talking to you, and I'm glad I got to know you. And then you're a twin. I'm so crazy about twins. So I guess why I like you. There's just something there. I was like, just special. But then it's education and twins. Now added some more things to the list. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for telling us a little bit more about you. Thanks for showing us about your passion. And I'm leaving here just, smiling because, I know you're going to keep doing great stuff, and I wish you the very best on your entrepreneurial journey as well. And I'm leaving here by remembering what you said about one of the traits for a teacher should be, to have that learning spirit, to never stop learning. Because we always tell our students that now it's time for us to, heal our own self and take our own medicine. So thanks for that reminder. And thanks for coming on the show. I hope you come back again so we can talk about also other amazing stuff as well. It's been fun talking to Shanimarie today. If you love this episode, don't forget to please subscribe. You guys, this is very important because for the podcast to be out there and be popping, you all need to be subscribing. Hit that subscribe button. Even share with your friends if you love this episode. For someone to come on the show and share your own story, just come aboard. There's always space to explore stories because, I'm all about that story exploration lifestyle. Anyways, thank you guys for being here with us today, and I remain your host as always, Sibyl. Bye for now. All right, girl. Thanks for. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sibyl podcast. Well, guess what? There's plenty more where that came from. So visit our website at www.mosibyl.com. That is www.mosibyl.com, where you can find hours of other binge-worthy episodes just like this one. And while you're at it, please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcast or Podbean, as it encourages other awesome people like you to listen to the podcast as well. We are now officially on Podbean. It has an app. You can catch up on missed episodes and also get a notification when we have new episodes. Do you have a question for our guest, feedback on the episode, or a suggestion for a future guest? Then please get in touch with us by sending us an email at talktomo@mosibyl.com or connect with us via Instagram at the Sibyl Podcast. Cannot wait to hear from you, and thank you so much for always listening. From this world, a violent weapon and